Let's get some analysis from Alexey Muraviev. He's an associate professor of national security and strategic studies at Curtin University. He joins us now from Perth, Australia. Good to have you on the show, Alexey. I mean, I understand that the Donbass is described as Ukraine's sort of industrial heartland, but its economy, it is coal-based, it is heavily subsidized. I mean, is it just economical?
Well, it's not just economical. I mean, for Russia, it was, the whole adventure in Ukraine was not just about the economics. It was also about geopolitics. It's about the concept of the so-called Russian world that Putin has toyed with since 2014. It's also about the land bridge, the land corridor that would connect the Crimean Peninsula with mainland Russia, and effectively depriving Ukraine from the opportunity to connect with the outside world by maritime links. And that's not just cutting it off from the Sea of Azov, where Ukraine has had until recently significant industrial capacity, particularly in the city of Mariupol, which is about to be taken by the Russian forces after about 2 weeks of siege, but also if the Russians will stretch their reach to as far as the Odessa port, which is Ukraine's largest seaport on the Black Sea, that would give Russia complete access not only of the southern strategic underbelly of Ukraine, but also would effectively weaken Ukraine as Russia's economic competitor in a number of industries.
That's a good point you make. All right, analyze this for me. And I mean, there is the likelihood of a scenario where the Russians or President Putin can't win, and he will refuse to do so in terms of losing. I mean, how likely is it that he will fall back onto the Donbass and claim that this was their primary objective all along?
Look, I mean, if the Russians will succeed in encircling and defeating effectively what now appears to be 1/3 of the Ukrainian operational forces, it will change the tide of the war, because that would allow the Russian military to effectively retake not only parts that the pro-Russian separatists have lost in 2014, 2015, but effectively control or establish control of the entire central and eastern Ukraine to the east of the Dnieper River, which effectively divides Ukraine into two parts. It would also allow the Russians to effectively return back to Kiev and take the capital without any significant difficulties, because the Ukrainians will simply run out of most competent and combat-capable units. I mean, we hear a lot, I mean, this is something that's important to remember. We hear a lot about the losses that the Russians have sustained. We don't hear much about the Ukrainian losses, but despite their heroic resistance, they have taken some really severe punishment from the Russians. So the Russians actually don't just change their strategy because the adventure in terms of seizing Kiev within 48 hours didn't eventuate. They also feel fairly confident that despite the fact that the strongest grouping of the Ukrainian military is concentrated in the Donbas region, it has been significantly weakened by now, and the Russians have really good chance of overtaking it by massing their available forces there.
Alexey, tell me this. I mean, do you feel that the fate of the peace talks that we're seeing more momentum gain is pretty much dependent on the outcome of what the Russians get out of Donbass? I mean, do you feel that once they feel that they have a successful campaign there, then they'll start to negotiate a deal?
Look, I mean, I will take it one step further and simply say that both sides effectively look at the battlefield and see what sort of political gains they can get from the winnings that their forces can achieve on the battlefield. So I think both sides are dragging their feet and not willing to reach any form of compromise, because both the Ukrainian authorities as well as the Russians somehow believe that they can change the tide of war in their favor, and on that condition start dictating terms and conditions of either side surrender, or either side will be forced to make more compromises than than their negotiations partners. So a lot will depend on the outcomes of the battle for Donbas, for eastern Ukraine.
Okay, Alexey Muraviev, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Do appreciate the analysis. Thank you.